When you look out the window today and see a heavy rainstorm rolling in, your first instinct is probably to put on some coffee, grab a blanket, and sink into the couch. Rain is mostly background noise. It's a convenient excuse to stay inside, get cozy, and binge a new show. But rewind 50,000 years, and a severe weather pattern presented an immediate, multi-front threat. When a relentless, wind-driven storm hit our ancient ancestors, it was a fight for survival. A wet human loses body heat up to 25 times faster than a dry one. Without waterproof gear, getting caught in a long downpour at night could plummet your core temperature straight into fatal hypothermia within a matter of hours. Then there was the terrain itself. Early humans often lived at the base of hillsides or near river valleys. A heavy deluge could trigger violent flash floods, washing out the exact rock shelters they relied on for safety, and they weren't the only ones looking for cover. Rain drove massive, lethal predators into those same tight spaces. Archaeologists have found ancient human skulls bearing the exact puncture marks of leopard teeth, buried right alongside the remains of big cats in the exact same cave sediment layers. A severe storm violently squeezed early humans, hungry predators, and freezing elements into a few tiny, dry pockets of Earth. Surviving that forced proximity required absolute focus. In the middle of that cramped, high-stakes environment, one job took priority over everything else: keeping the fire alive. For a long stretch of human prehistory, creating a flame from absolute scratch was an incredibly difficult skill, so protecting an existing ember was paramount. Some groups solved this by transporting smoldering coals wrapped in green leaves or packed inside a specific type of woody mushroom called tinder fungus. This acted as a biological lighter, holding a live spark for hours as they moved between camps. We know how seriously they took this because of discoveries like Otzi the Iceman. When researchers found his 5,300-year-old frozen remains in the Alps, he was carrying a dedicated pouch containing flint, iron pyrite for sparking, and tinder fungus, ensuring he was never caught without a flame. During a downpour, preserving that flame took intense coordination. Someone had to shield it from the wind, hunt down lower dead branches protected by the forest canopy, split wet logs to extract the dry core, and feed the fire specifically with chemical-rich birch bark that burns even when completely soaked. If that flame went out, the group lost their heat, their light, their defense against predators, and their ability to cook. Letting the fire die was a catastrophic failure that could easily wipe out everyone in the shelter. So imagine the fire is secured, but the rain is still hammering outside. You are trapped in this cave for 2, maybe 3 days. How does the group spend that time? The archaeological record points to massive bursts of productivity. Excavations reveal large piles of stone flaking debris, the tiny chips that fly off when shaping a tool, concentrated in the exact spots where someone would sit to catch the firelight. They also took on slow, highly repetitive tasks that required long hours of focus. Sitting out a storm provided the perfect opportunity to meticulously twist raw plant fibers into strong, durable string. This animated diagram illustrates how those raw plant fibers were twisted into a single, strong cord, multiplying human capabilities. With rope, you can set complex snare traps, lash heavy timber to build tighter shelters, and securely bind stone axes to wooden handles. They also spent this time upgrading their immediate living spaces. In South African caves, researchers have found 77,000-year-old sleeping mats made of carefully arranged grasses, topped with specific insect-repellent leaves to keep pests away. Being stuck inside meant they finally had the hours needed to deliberately craft these upgrades. The necessity of waiting out a storm pushed our ancestors to mass-produce complex tools and turn basic survival spaces into domestic homes. This intense productivity extended well beyond physical tools. In places like the Chauvet Cave in France, we find some of the oldest figurative art on Earth, like these incredibly detailed black lions. To paint these, early humans had to crawl hundreds of meters through narrow, pitch-black passages holding animal fat lamps. You don't take on that kind of massive, dangerous effort on a sunny day when the hunting is good. You do it when a storm keeps you indoors and you've already sharpened every spear you own. While the weather raged outside, the campfire became a hub for social connection. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups note that while daytime talk is usually practical, nighttime fireside conversations shift heavily to storytelling, singing, and shared ceremonies. These stories operated as highly sophisticated oral databases. Sitting together for hours allowed elders to pass down critical knowledge about which plants were safe to eat, where hidden water sources lay, and how to track specific animal migrations. We know this form of transmission works over incredible timelines. Australian Aboriginal oral traditions describe specific sea level changes and geological events that occurred over 7,000 years ago, preserved entirely through generations of spoken word. A severe storm acted as a physical containment field. By forcing dozens of people into close proximity around a fire for days on end, bad weather created the perfect environment to build complex culture and cement a group's collective memory. Then the rain finally stops, and the environment waiting outside is entirely different. The soaked ground is soft, yielding deep, high-fidelity tracks that tell a hunter exactly what walked by and how fast it was moving. The moisture also triggers a sudden boom in calories. Tubers are much easier to dig out of the wet soil. Edible mushrooms explode overnight, and massive swarms of protein-dense termites rise to the surface, ready to be gathered without any tools at all. Look at the state of the humans stepping back out into the sun. They aren't the same people who ran into the cave. They emerge rested, wearing warmer clothing, carrying newly manufactured weapons, and armed with refreshed tactical knowledge. Prehistoric rain acted as a pressure cooker. The hours spent waiting out the storm forced our ancestors to sit still, think, and communicate. That forced downtime generated the technology, the art, and the culture we rely on today.